Hello, this podcast is recorded on Gadigal country and we pay our respects to the First Nations custodians of the land, both here and also wherever you're listening from.
Hello, Crabb here, actually holding a script so that I don't witter on. Thank you, Lee Sales. If you love this podcast and you'd like to support us, check out details at our website, chat10nooks3.com. You can click on podcast, then support the pod. There are free options and also paid subscriptions starting at $2 a month. Thank you for your support, helping us keep this ramshackle pony on the road.
Well, here we are for the moment. Well, I've been waiting for
God.
Sales' Summer of Culture.
Your big dumb face. Like, look at that. Just like, I've got a list and I'm going to read my way through
really
the list
organised.
and you'll have to listen. Okay.
Before I do, I told Jeremy I'd mention that, but I think by the time this podcast goes out, our Brisbane show will be on sale, which is our first show for the year. It's May the 9th, the day before my birthday, in Brisbane at QPAC. So I'll be schlepping the whole family up there and then making... Mum and my brother take me out for dinner on Saturday night for my birthday.
And so now I'm on notice to not forget your birthday. But like, isn't it interesting that in the olden days, you would always cry on your birthday because it was always budget day.
Oh,
and you'd have to interview the treasurer about,
God.
the off-road deflator or whatever.
That feels like ages ago now.
Yeah, but that was genuinely miserable. And it for years.
For years, because it would be either the night before the budget, the day of the budget reply day, the day after the budget.
So I'd quite
Sometimes
often
it
take a
lands
little
on Mother's
present
Day.
for you to Canberra and you'd be like, I can't be doing anything with that now. And then if someone would text you a lovely text for your birthday, you'd be like, leave me alone, can't you see I'm busy? So when I was working in the press gallery, my birthday used always to fall on the day that the federal election donations report came out.
Oh, right.
And it used to be my job at the Age to report on that. And I would always end up crying because it's so difficult to report. None of the figures match up. And you're kind of like, well, who is that? Is that Twiggy Forrest? It always is. And then, so I'd be just like, oh, so I can't add up.
Horrible.
I feel like this is going to be wrong. Yep.
So if you're a Queensland chatter, you are first cab off the rank this year. So keep your eye out. Just go to our website and see when the Brisbane show is going to be. And I always love the Brisbane show. It's always really well attended. It's a hoot. Everyone's great. It's at South Bank. You can have a drink beforehand. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I've split my lists into various topics.
Christ, okay, you were
for
serious
what I've
about
watched
this.
and listened to over summer. So you know whether you want to listen on, because I sometimes feel a bit like, I think sometimes for a podcast what I'm interested in is if I know they're going to talk about something I've watched and want to hear about. So I'm going to tell you basically in the next half hour the things I'm going to talk about. My overall highlights from summer were watching The Agency, which is the American remake of The Bureau, which I adored.
Still too scared to watch it.
The film Spy, starring Melissa McCarthy.
Dear God.
And the books Tell Me Everything by Elizabeth Strout and The Myth of Sanity by Martha Stout. And along the way I'm going to
Stout and Strout.
Stout and
I feel
Strout.
like this is a comedy that is about to explode.
Along the way I'm going to be taking detours into...
Martha Stout.
Martha Stout, yep.
That's, I don't know, that's a name to battle with, isn't it, throughout your life? And I say that as a crab.
Do you know, I got referred to the other day for a surgeon to do a skin cancer thing, and the person's name is Professor Saw. What an apt name for a surgeon. Okay, along the way I'm going to be taking detours into a lot of other stuff that's been very popular and highly watched or read at the moment, including Douglas is Cancelled, La Palma, Fake, A Man on the Inside, and on the book front, Barbara Kingsolver, Claire Keegan.
Oh my God, you've done nothing but consume.
Totally. I
just
can't
fed
believe
your face.
I can't believe how much stuff I've watched and read. Okay.
Is this because your children are kind of getting to the point where they can amuse themselves?
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%. It's to do
Gee,
with
that's
that.
a gift with purchase, isn't it?
Oh, it's just so much easier.
Also, when your kids start really reading stuff that you have read or are interested in, that's a whole new avenue of excitement.
Yeah, mine haven't really hit that yet, but at least
But they're
we
not
can
really
now,
of the age, like...
No, at least now on TV we can watch some stuff. Like at the moment we're rewatching Derry Girls, which makes me very happy.
yeah.
So and they love it too, so it's great. Okay, my first topic under which I've categorised things is things in which I was invested in the original source material. So please don't fuck this up. The first.
How many subheads have you got on your list? Just
Okay, I'll tell you all the subheads. That's the first one. The
maybe
second one is-
2025 should be the year of counterintuitive subheadings.
Yeah, could
let's
be.
do it.
Okay. My second one is things I've come to late. My third one is
Things to which I've come late would be the better prepositional placement. But like, if we're going to continue with this, There can't be any fucking ending sentences or clauses with prepositions. Just,
fair enough. Okay. Things to which
That's
I've come
fair.
late. Things to which I've... hang on. Things, surprisingly, to which I've come basically on time.
Things to which, surprisingly,
Things to which, surprisingly, I've come basically on time with everyone else.
There you go.
Things
So
that set
proud
me
of you
off
right now.
to an unnecessarily ridiculous degree because of plausibility issues. Leftovers, and that's it. Okay, things to which I was invested in the original source material. So please don't fuck this up.
No.
Top of the
You don't
list.
need the two there. Things to which I was incredibly
Things
invested.
in which I was invested.
Yes, great.
Yeah. Okay. The agency.
We're getting there, but it's going to be a long road, isn't it? Like,
Exactly. The agency. Okay. Long-time listeners of the pod will know that along with the
Mon Dieu.
Americans, there's probably one show that I've loved more than anything else that I've watched in the past decade, and that is a French television show called The Bureau, which you also loved, right?
I watched it on SBS.
SBS On Demand.
Yeah, so there would be like an ad every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And all of those ads are still imprinted in my brain. And it was really the only TV series that, like, sometimes I watched through the whole night.
I think
dozing on and off.
Oh,
like,
totally.
And then I had this series of dreams where I was locked in a boot in the desert, and I was like, no.
Oh, that series.
Yeah.
That was
Too
just
bad, too
oh my
much.
God. It got to a point, the Bureau, where I was feeling a bit like with the Americans, where I was like
Screaming.
and I'm watching this for pleasure. Like
Yeah.
the tension here is so high and ratcheted up. And the French actor who plays the lead spy, Malotru,
Yeah.
he was just absolutely brilliant. So you can see why this is a very it's nervy to watch The Agency when you loved The Bureau
Yeah.
so much. So you've chosen you're not going to watch The Agency because you're like, I just
No,
can't.
I'm just waiting to see what you tell me about it, because
Okay.
I have known for some time that you were watching it, and I think I've asked you a couple of times, like, is it safe? But I want to hear what you're about to say, and then I will make my decision.
Make you call. Okay. So the Malotru character is played by Michael Fassbender, who's an excellent actor.
Okay.
And then there's other actors. Probably the best known of the other actors in it is Richard Gere, who plays the
Okay.
sort of
I've seen
station
him
boss.
around for ages.
Yeah, it's set in London. It's CIA, but it's the London office.
Oh,
and so
okay.
Richard Gere is the London office. You know, he's the London bureau boss, the station chief, as they say. And then Dominic West is the head of the CIA.
Oh, shit, you didn't tell me Dominic West was in it.
Yeah, he's not in it. Well, so far he's not a massive character, but he's in it.
Okay.
So
If you deal in Ben
overall-
Whishaw, I'm in.
yeah, he's not there. Overall, it's very good. Had I never seen the original French, I would think it was really excellent. It's hard for me because it just makes me miss the French characters because I was so attached to them by the end of the 6 seasons.
What about that
But-
annoying piping girl who was like, you know,
Marina,
yeah,
I'm going to
there's a hummingbird.
study some earthquakes.
What the maze? A butterfly? What was her
I'm going
code
to study
name?
some earthquakes.
Fuck, I would just found her
Marina,
annoying.
her name was Marina, but I can't remember what her code name was.
It was something a
She
bit
spoke like this all the time.
flitty.
I'm an expert in seismology. So yeah, that character exists, but she's less annoying than Marina. But nonetheless, every time she comes on, I'm like, oh yeah, Marina with the annoying voice. Okay, so it gives me it gives me the same emotional feeling as the Bureau, which is a feeling of confusion, tension. I don't know the full story here. There's secrets. What's going on with Fassbender? He's this elite super spy that everyone respects, and yet he's fallen in love with this woman on his mission. He's angry that he's been called back, but he's trying to like not express that. And then he's getting the debrief from the psych they've brought in to try to find out what's going on. So it's got all of those things.
And are they the same? Are they the same geopolitical issues?
It's no, that the country that he's been in the Bureau it was Syria, and in this one it's Somalia. I think it's Somalia or Sudan. I think it's Somalia.
Right, so they're going with an S word, but not the original.
It's Somalia. And so the woman he's fallen in love with is a Somali woman who, like Nadia in the Bureau, has shown up in London, and so they're kind of secretly seeing each other. Now, it also gives me one of the feelings I had with the Bureau that for the entire 6 seasons was, fucking Nadia, like, you know, you just are messing everything up. You are a pain in the neck. Everything you touch turns to disaster. Just cut her off. And this is giving me exactly the same feeling with
Okay.
Fassbender, where I'm just like, she is so irritating, the way she's just wafting around and just creating trouble. Just get rid of her. Like, why can't you just get rid of her? So
You'd like her to be whacked?
well, just like Nadia and Melatru, I just feel like, dude, there's plenty of beautiful women out there. Just move on. So this one is just too fraught with peril. So Fassbender has got a terrific quality, which I've talked about before, actually also along with Dominic West and other actors, which is he has this slight, what I call rotten apple quality, which is you get a sense of what you see is not what you get. There's something else going on.
He's got a side.
Handsome men where you feel like what's under the surface kind of thing. Dominic West has it too.
What he's got under the surface is he's Welsh.
That's what he's hiding.
He's like,
actually, Murph was
so I'm
backing me
Welsh.
because I was then Googling Fassbender.
yeah, God.
I was Googling Fassbender and
Welsh.
I said, oh, Fassbender, interesting. He's a combo of Irish and German. And I said, geez, doesn't he look exactly like a combination of both those things? And Murph was like, I love it when you Google things that are so bleedingly obvious that everyone else has known for a million years and you drop it out at my feet like it's something that I'm going to be surprised at, that Michael Fassbender's half German, half Irish.
It's one of your most charming qualities, is just this absolutely debilitating failure to notice really obvious things until well before, after anyone else, even though you'd be like, do you know that Twisties do a chicken variety?
Well, that's like I asked a friend, I better not say it, about what a euphemism for a sexual act, particular one, and she was like, wow, I can't believe you had to check that. The
It was the
word
rub
was
and
rub
tug, I
down.
think.
Rub down. The word was rub down.
I've got to stop reading the Daily Mail, mate.
I thought it was, but I just wanted to double check.
I thought it was a rub down. Look.
In case I ever shop at a place and I go, oh, could I have a rub down? Because I just wanting, I've got an itchy back or something. I'd love a rub down, thanks. And then I realised, I literally thought you just got rubbed down. It sounded really appealing.
You're going to frizz my face.
And then I'm going to be in the Daily Mail for sitting in a rub down place, and I'll be like, I literally thought it was going to be like, a Japanese bathhouse, and I was just going to get a nice pat.
The only thing that's really tipped me over into raw panic is the fact that I know that in the next 72 hours I've been booked into a couples massage with you. This is just about to explode into horrific, fleshy Technicolor. And it's perfectly innocent.
So true.
It's perfectly innocent.
We're going literally for a rub down together.
We really are. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel okay about it, but
Oh my God.
a bit less so now.
So
just like, let's make a little list of words that we shouldn't use.
so
Just like, yes, I would like the ylang oil is fine.
That's right. And I just like some gentle
No.
massaging. I mean, anyway, Murph and I now call Fassbender O'Fassy, leaning into his Irish
That's good, yeah.
roots. So O'Fassy is excellent, as you'd expect. He does that thing that the French do.
So that's what we're all calling him now, okay?
That French actor was brilliant at both being inscrutable, as you would expect a spy to be.
Spycraft, that's just,
But somehow in his acting, just with his eyes or something, as a viewer, you felt like you could kind of see what he was thinking. He was absolutely phenomenal. O'Fassy is pretty good. So I feel like it must be very good for me to have come in as such a fan of the Bureau and to be like, okay, you're doing a remake of a show I really loved. And I think it's actually pretty good.
Because there's that constant tension that was the most sort of stringy, sinuous kind of compelling thing about the agency. But you sort of know what's going to happen over the next few seasons. So
Totally.
does that
No,
slightly...
I'm just enjoying the ride. It's fine. Yeah, it's
okay.
good. Yeah. Okay,
O'Fassy?
Fake.
Okay, on to the next thing, yes.
Fake, which was the television version of the book by Stephanie Wood about...
Oh!
Yeah. So
I didn't even know there was a TV version of that. Oh, I love that book.
Yep, it stars Asha Ketty and David Wenham as the love interest. The book was basically about Stephanie Wood's real life experience dating this guy who she met on a dating app, who turned out to just be an absolute fantasist, narcissist, psycho.
Incredible.
And then discovering that, this is actually pretty common. Oh, they've done an excellent job of it. I thought it was fantastic. I could barely stop watching it. Really, really good. It differs slightly to the book in some ways. Heather Mitchell plays her mother and does a really great job of it.
God, I love her. Heather Mitchell is just...
She's so great, and she's just having such a moment.
Right,
So
she really is. She's so good at everything.
She is.
And stage, screen, whatever, and just the most obviously generous and interesting, smart person.
She's awesome.
Anyway.
If you go into the Australian Story Archive on iView, there's an episode about Heather Mitchell, which is well worth a watch.
Also, her memoir is terrific.
Yeah. Dexter, Original Sin. Loved the original, maybe...
Hang on, so Fake, thumbs up?
Absolute thumbs up for Fake. It was excellent.
I want to just intersperse there that we also have both read, I don't think we've managed to talk about it yet, The Last Victim, which is another catfishing, kind of... Yeah, it's
I've
by...
not read that.
Yeah, you have.
No, I haven't.
Tracy Hall.
I've not.
Who's the woman from the Who the Hell is Hamish story.
I've not read it.
Oh.
Ow.
Ow. I thought we were both reading it.
No.
It's terrific anyway.
Okay.
Do you remember there was that podcast called Who the Hell is Hamish? And it was about, again, this guy who's sort of like, hey, hi, my name's Hamish. I'm hot and, oh, hi, lady.
Yeah.
Let's date.
Yeah.
Like this sort of opening that dating apps seem to have created for totally...
Psycho dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
that's terrific.
Great.
Her book is great. Tracy Hall, her name is. And it is very interesting on this exact theme.
Right.
Thank you very much. Good night. As you were.
Dexter, Original Sin. I loved the first maybe 4 seasons of Dexter. The original...
it just feels like too many series for a serial killer.
Look, the first few were hilarious, and because the voice was so well done, it was just blackly comic, didn't take itself too seriously. Michael C. Hall was awesome, and it really worked. They had some great guest stars like... what's the name of the actor who was the priest in Footloose? The Reverend John. Oh yeah, you know who I mean, don't you?
This is the most
And then he was in
50-something-year-old
30 Rocks from
lady.
the Sun and-
No, it's that thing with John Lithgow. No, it's not John Lithgow.
John Lithgow, yeah, John
It is,
Lithgow.
right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Thank
God, can
you.
you imagine
That
in
is-
10 years
yeah.
when we're doing this
Oh,
pod,
man.
we're just not going to know anyone's name.
No,
John
no,
Lithgow.
it's the thing, the lady who was in, Hannah and her sisters, and then later she was in that vampires thing. Sounds like a point of the compass.
We're already like
South, that. No, Diane Wiest.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the guy who it's a prequel to so Dexter, the main television show with Michael C. Hall, had the worst blowout of an ending I've ever seen on any show in my life.
I'm interested.
Oh my God, it was horrendous.
It's about a serial killer who's sort of funny and adorable.
He's funny. He's not adorable.
Oh, okay.
No, he's.
I just have a problem with it.
Yeah, it's hard to explain. But Dexter ends in an incredibly bad way, which is basically in an incestuous relationship with his sister, and just this ridiculous... It just lost... I don't know what happened, if the original writers quit or something, but it just took the most horrendous turn ever.
So this is the end of the 4th season or whatever?
Or 4 or 5, 6,
okay.
I can't remember. But
so
anyway.
if I wanted to watch it... I would have your assurance that it's worth watching, and I could just stop
I'd
after
watch
the
it up
second.
to the season where John Lithgow is in it, and then I wouldn't watch anymore.
To be clear, I'm not going to. But
Okay, but if you were going to. Now, it's got Dexter Original Sin. The guy who's the lead is absolutely uncannily like Michael C. Hall. He's clearly studied Michael C. Hall's mannerisms and performance so well.
It's a remake.
Prequel.
No,
It's a prequel where the premise of Dexter is his father, who's a police officer, has rescued Dexter from a horrific crime scene where his mother's been murdered, and he's had a very violent upbringing as a child, and the kid's scarred and basically has psychotic tendencies, and so the police officer father tries to channel them into ways that are not going to be harmful, so he has a code where you can only murder people who deserve it, basically.
So they had it coming.
Yeah, and he works for the police. He works in blood forensics, so he can be around blood and stuff like that. And then he has a sister who's not his... they're not biologically related. So Harry, the police officer, has a daughter, Deb. She and Dexter aren't related by blood, but they're very close brothers and sisters because they've been raised together as children. Right. And so, as I say, in the final season, when they get together, you're like, what? No, they cannot get together. I don't care if they're not biologically related. Like, that's just sick. So anyway, so now it's a prequel, and it's young Dexter being trained by Harry Morgan as a teenager, kind of, in how to learning the code and so on. So all of there's the show is set in the Miami Police Department, and so all of the original characters in Dexter, so anyone that watched Dexter, Batista, Masuka, the other key characters, they're all in it played by different younger actors, but it gives the effect of that you're basically watching a drag panto of Dexter.
Oh my God. So it's like Joni Loves Chachi, but like.
So you've got young Batista is a detective who's like
terrible.
Hispanic, who always wears a little cap and a floral shirt open over a t-shirt. And so now that dude, it's the identical costume, but on a younger, skinnier guy. And so it's like Batista in drag. And Masuka, who's a blood splatter expert, again, the guy has clearly studied the original Masuka's acting and then
This is very dangerous.
It really is. And so
because you really only have to get it a bee's dick off, and then it becomes
that's wrong.
Just
it becomes
wrong.
ridiculous.
It's like biopics or whatever,
That's
where
right.
you're casting it. You're like, well, do I want someone who really looks like Freddie Mercury, or do I,
That's right. Or you just go for the feel or whatever.
Yeah.
So it has a good cast. So it has Patrick Dempsey is the police chief. Christian Slater's in it. Sarah Michelle Gellar. And so with those people, like Christian Slater can be very clever and funny,
Yep.
and so can Sarah Michelle Gellar. And so I thought, well, maybe with this cast, it's going to be actually taking the piss knowingly out of itself. But I only watched about 3/4 of episode 1, and it didn't do that well enough for me to watch on, so I abandoned it. So,
off with its head.
Yeah, so it was off with its head. Still in the theme of
my God,
I'm heavily invested in the original, so don't fuck it up. Elizabeth Strout's new novel. I'd been sitting on it, waiting for the Christmas holidays. It's called Tell Me Everything. Elizabeth Strout, I absolutely adore, who wrote Olive Kitteridge, My Name is Lucy Barton. The Burgess Boys, I've read everything she's ever written. When a new Elizabeth Strout comes out, I look so forward to it. Oh, the pleasure. Oh, God. I read it straight after the back straight on the back of Liars that we talked about in the last pod. So when you've read something that's kind of middling, and then you turn to something that is beautiful, and the sense of that you are in the safest pair of hands, it was so fantastic. So it's probably mostly following, it pulls together all of the characters around whom the other books have been built. Olive Kitteridge is in it, Lucy Barton's in it, Bob Burgess is in it, spread pretty evenly between all of them, possibly mostly on Bob. It's a beautiful read. Absolutely highly recommend it if you liked the other Elizabeth Strouts. And if you haven't read the other Elizabeth Strouts, start with Olive Kitteridge and then read them in order of her writing. They're fantastic. The other thing I liked, and I would say I'm invested not in the original product, but in the original, in the writer Claire Keegan, who I discovered last year. Started reading some Claire Keegan. So I was thinking, like, don't let me down, Claire Keegan. Small Things Like These. Fantastic. Have you read it? Yeah, just basically a novella set in Ireland. A man who's been born out of wedlock in Ireland is treated very kindly by his mother's employee. And his mother dies when he's a child, and then his mother's employer, the employer basically raises him. And then as an adult, he comes across some what he thinks is cruelty going on in a kind of convent situation. And he basically rescues this young girl. When I got to the end, I read the notes at the back, and it was like, there was this thing called laundry girls who were actually badly mistreated, this sort of chapter in Irish history. Anyway, again, beautifully written piece of work.
She never disappoints, that lady.
Things I've come to late is my next subheading. Comedy Central roasts. Have you watched any Comedy Central roasts?
Okay, so on the strength of a text message tip-off from you, yeah, I did. And there's something about,
It's a bit of a hard watch, right?
It's like I watched the Charlie Sheen one.
Oh, okay.
Far out. Like, it's bloody.
Okay, so everyone knows what these are, and it's a bit timely actually, because in the week of us recording this, the Golden Globes has recently occurred, and that was hosted by Nikki Glaser, and people were saying, "Oh, Nikki Glaser, she's just amazing. She did a great job," and she did. She kind of made a name for herself. She's been around a long time, for 20 years, doing stand-up. She got really heavily into the public eye recently. She's one of the roasters in Comedy Central roasts, but she roasted Tom Brady, and it went absolutely viral, her roast of Tom Brady. But these Comedy Central roasts, You know when you used to watch, say, Ricky Gervais host the Golden Globes, and he'd occasionally drop like a line and you'd think, I cannot believe he said that to that person's face. Like the one that always comes to my mind is when he introduced Mel Gibson, and the line was, I like a drink as much as the next man, unless the next man is Mel Gibson. Now, Comedy Central roast, it's like that on steroids, line after line after line, and you cannot believe what they are saying. And there's no reprieve whatsoever. And it is just, they go to the
and they're
most
sitting right there,
sensitive, and the person who's the subject of it is sitting right there. And they're big stars. And you just think, how on earth did they get Rob Lowe to Tom Brady?
Yeah, the Rob Lowe. I watched a bit of the Rob Lowe one.
Yeah, I couldn't watch a whole episode in one go because it was a lot. Yeah. And it's kind of awkward watching, but also absolutely hilarious at the same time.
Are they... I'd be interested to know, it's only just occurred to me, like, I wonder if, are they more likely to be bloke stars than lady stars that get roasted?
I've not seen any women get roasted as the key person, but there've been women on the panels. Like the most inexplicable one was, so Ann Coulter, the far-right blowhard, was on the panel for the Rob Lowe one, so she was doing some of the roasting, and she was clearly had shown up because she had a new book to come out and she was publicising it. But she became the most vicious target of roasting herself. Everybody there hated her, and her own roast, she was not likeable. She wasn't funny. The audience clearly just didn't rate her.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to even know as the roastee. I guess the way to handle it is you have to kind of laugh along, but they're talking often about such painful stuff in your life. Like one of the lines that Nikki Glaser gives Tom Brady is, man, you've had such an incredible Super Bowl career. You've got 7 rings. I mean, 8 actually, now that Giselle's given hers back. Like funny, but like, oh my God, he's sitting right there.
Yeah.
So it's a bit excruciating. Did you find the Charlie Sheen one funny?
Well, I mean, you sort of think of Charlie Sheen as being like just this sort of epically shameless individual. And he's sitting there kind of, grinning and kind of swaggering through the whole thing, which didn't surprise me. And I think there's a person who's, like Rob Lowe, been through such kind of incredible public shaming that they get to the point where they're just like, better out than in. But
the Rob Lowe line that sticks with me was, again, delivered by Nikki Glaser. And so there's endless jokes at Rob Lowe's expense about the sex tape he made when he was like 18 or 20 or something. Yeah. And with 2 young women, one of whom turned out to be 16, and Rob Lowe always maintained that she was 18. And that is just the subject of endless jokes, including Nikki Glaser saying to Rob Lowe, Rob, you're so good looking. You are so handsome. I feel like I'm looking at a sculpture. I mean, you really put the statue in statutory rape. It's just absolutely brutal. And Rob Lowe just has to sit there. The Alec Baldwin one, I mean, there were many things that made me laugh in it. But again, they go to the abusive message to the daughter. In fact, his daughter gets up and is one of the roasters. And the fact that he's married this woman so much younger than him and
had another 30 children. Yeah.
Luckily for him, it clearly was shot before that shooting episode on the thing. But like, for example, when they start the show by playing a highlights reel, and the throw line to Alex is, let's take a look at Alex's package before it makes any more Baldwins. And then the other line that I loved in Alex was just so funny was, you've got 5 kids under 5, Alec. The good part about having kids later in life, young, strong pallbearers. So they're full on. I can't watch a lot of them.
These guys are amazing though, aren't they? I mean, like Rob Lowe, Charlie Sheen, and Alec Baldwin have done. Like, I remember them from my childhood being the subject of scandals.
Oh, yeah.
And, like Alec Baldwin reaming out his kid on the text message, or Rob Lowe on the sex tape, or Charlie Sheen and everything.
Everything.
But, like, also in that span, each of them, possibly with the exception of Charlie Sheen, has kind of produced work that I think is absolutely, like, genius. Like, as an actor. So there's just this.
Charlie Sheen's done some brilliant stuff. Wall Street, Platoon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. I just think, what kind of person do you have to be to kind of sustain that level of amplitude, I guess, variation between your highs and your lows and still keep going. Like I
don't know.
I think it'd be exhausting. Also, I think that, I mean, I'm a horrible old gender theorist, so I think that men often find public disgrace more survivable than women do. Like, I think...
Well, imagine Hillary Clinton sitting there, for example, and having just Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky jokes just around down her throat. Like, it's... Yeah, it's a hard watch. It's a hard watch.
Yeah.
But they are funny. Okay, Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I said at the Canberra show it was one of my reads this summer.
Yep.
Fantastic writing, great voice, wonderful character. Abandoned it. Couldn't keep going. Too bleak. I just can't read about hardscrabble childhoods and I just. It was a really good book, but I just got to a point. And in fact, I put a post in the Chat 10 group to go, is his life going to turn around here? And they were like, oh, it's apparently based on David Copperfield. And so they were like, well, if you haven't read David Copperfield, so you don't know.
Yeah, because of your little rule.
Yeah. So, and a few people said, it gets a few notes of hope, but not really. So I just put it aside, couldn't do it. I tell you,
off with its head.
Off with its head. The funniest thing I've watched in a very long time was a film called Spy, starring Melissa McCarthy. It's on Netflix. It is so funny. I was cracking myself.
So it had you at the name, I assume. And so it's a comedy?
It's a comedy. It's a comedy. It's a piss take.
Or are you just laughing at the spycraft?
It's a piss take of all of those spy films. So it's got Jude Law, Melissa McCarthy, Jason Statham, Rose Byrne, and her husband, whose name escapes me, Bobby Cannavale, who's a great actor too.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
So the premise is Melissa McCarthy is Jude Law's handler. Jude Law's like a James Bond style field agent. She is on the desk looking after him, and then for various reasons, the head of the CIA, Alison Janney, decides they're going to...
Alison Janney's in it?
Alison Janney's in it. She's
How have I never
great.
heard of this movie?
They decide...
Is it new?
It's been around for a while. They decide they're going to run Melissa McCarthy in the field because she's going to be... She's got good cover because she can be, just some middle-aged lady. So they keep giving her these incredibly boring identities, like you're going to Rome as part of a crocheting convention or whatever. Anyway, chaos ensues. So there are some absolutely hilarious lines, and many of them have the vibe of being improvised and that they've just gone cut just before everyone's collapsed on the ground laughing.
Right.
So there's one, for example, that Jason Statham says that I laughed aloud. He plays this guy who thinks he's a real super spy. He's a field agent.
Yeah.
But he's actually a bit of a klutz. Anyway, he's giving Melissa McCarthy a lecture on why he's such an amazing agent. And one of the things he says is, I've swallowed so many microchips and shat them out that I could build my own computer. It's just full of things like that. There's a bit where Rose Byrne, she's a villain, she's dressed in this skin-tight kind of shiny outfit, looks kind of like a wetsuit with a zip. And Melissa McCarthy says to her, blah, blah, blah. And so they decided to dress you like a slutty dolphin trainer. And it's exactly what she looks like. But I can't see, it just had the absolute ring of that just came out. Yeah. Anyway, so much of it felt improvised that at the end
fantastic.
I Googled spy outtakes to see.
Oh, my God.
And I highly recommend doing that because there are many hilarious things where they're just breaking up. And you can hear the director off camera saying to...
Just paint me a picture of where you're watching this. You in bed?
In a hotel room.
And you're just like...
In a hotel room with a mate. Oh, my God. It was just... We were screaming with laughter. Okay, things surprisingly that I've come to basically on time with everybody else. Douglas is cancelled on ABC iView. It was excellent. It's only 4 episodes. It's about a television presenter, like doing the kind of job that I did at 7:30, the main evening anchor, who has told an off-colour joke at a wedding and they're concerned, or an off-colour story at a wedding, and it's getting a little bit of traction on socials. It hasn't quite taken off yet, but then...
He said he can't remember.
He can't remember what he said, but he thinks he wouldn't have said anything wrong. And then his co-anchor, who's a younger woman... retweets it in a kind of not my co-anchor, wouldn't do this, and then that starts giving it further life, and it's like, well, hang on, did she do that on purpose? Is she being supportive, or is she undermining me? Anyway, the first 2 episodes, it's like a black comedy, and then episode 3, it takes a bit of a darker, more serious turn, and then it becomes a bit more of a social commentary. It's really well done. But there was a couple of lines in it that I wrote down because they just made me laugh and, again, reminded me of the responsibility of when you were the anchor in a job like that. His EP says to him at one point, he's talking about, you've got to be utterly beyond reproach. And he says something like, as far as the public is concerned, your voice is what makes famous people dead. There was another one along similar lines where the EP is trying to describe why is he such a big star. And he goes, he has a unique erotic appeal to the elderly because he announces death. Anyway, it's great. Did you watch that?
Yeah, I did. I watched all of it. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Karen Gillan, who plays the female co-anchor, was excellent.
She's incredible. And I like the way that each episode, it just takes, like episode 3 takes a totally different turn, and suddenly you're finding out a lot of the hinterland of that young woman's character, and it's great. And I found myself really appreciating the fact that it was only 4 eps long.
Same.
Because when I watched the first ep, I thought, oh, this is good. And I went, oh, it's only 4 eps. But then I thought, yeah, no, good call.
Yeah, it was good.
Yep.
A Man on the Inside, which has also been super popular at the moment on Netflix. It stars Ted Danson. He goes undercover into a retirement home because somebody's been stealing jewellery. Very, very light premise.
Right.
It was a really easy, light, charming little show. It was really an enjoyable watch. And it made me, for some reason, I got to thinking about Ted Danson. I was thinking, geez, Ted Danson has been around a long time. And I thought, he's not like big in your face superstar, but obviously
The Other Place or the
Good Place.
The Good Place.
Yeah. But I went and looked at his Wikipedia and I was like, man, Ted Danson has actually had hit after hit after hit, like Cheers, and then he was in 3 Men and a Baby, and then he's had The Good Place, he's had Damages, now he's got this show. So you're not having a career like that.
And he's had a scandal.
Accident.
Remember when he was going out with Whoopi Goldberg and he did blackface or something? Was that him?
He was coming out with Whoopi Goldberg.
Didn't
Didn't
he
he
have
cheat on her, or he cheated? He left someone for Whoopi Goldberg. I can't remember now. I think he.
We've just casually.
There was
besmirched him.
There was some private life
I
scandal.
feel like there was a blackface situation that just made me go, what?
I don't know. I don't think so, but I think there was a cheating situation.
I'm just going to
but-
purse my lips while I just Google
Have a
this.
look.
So just give me a second.
Ted Danson, he's got a quality that clearly audiences like him. Anyway, that was a lovely little show. On a plane, I watched a film called...
Ted Danson once wore blackface to roast Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, right.
So,
Right.
I don't know what year that was, but I
Right.
don't think it ever really...
Right.
Yep.
Blink Twice. It's a film directed by Zoe Kravitz that got a lot of buzz at the time when it came out. Okay, the premise of it is 2 girls who are wait staff at a very, very elite kind of function meet this rich, like, tech bro type. Tech bro type and his mates have a private jet and they're going off to the island and they go, girls, do you want to come? And so they go. The girls think they're having a great time. They wake up every day and it's party central and lots of drinking and stuff. And then they just something tweaks and they start to wonder, are we having a good time? Like, what, are we forgetting something? Like, what's going on here?
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I wouldn't suggest that you watch this film if you have issues with violence and sexual assault. It's very menacing and it is extremely violent, but it really is incredibly well directed.
So what, they're being drugged and like...
Well, I don't want to give away too many plot
right.
points as to what happens because it's kind of essential to the plot that
Right.
I don't go into that. It's kind of this futuristic weird thing. But
Oh, God, I hate it. Okay, no, no thank you.
it is amazingly well directed, like the tension and the way this beautiful setting, but something's kind of wrong.
Right, okay.
She's done an excellent job of that. So yeah, I can't say
It's
I enjoyed
amazing
the
how
film.
often the thing that's really more wrong is some chick getting totally horrifically abused, isn't it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Novels, movies,
Yeah.
TV series, they are incredibly original. Dark thing that's always happening is some chick copping it. Why?
This is a bit cleverer than that.
Okay.
Because the female director subverts it a bit. But
Sure.
so I think Zoe Kravitz is someone to watch. I can't say I enjoyed the film. My next topic is things that set me off to an unnecessarily ridiculous degree because of plausibility issues. Already went through that with Black Doves. La Palma, which is the tsunami drama on Netflix.
Oh my God!
All I'm going to say about
tsunami drama.
All I'm going to say about La Palma is it has one of the most implausible survivals I have ever seen in a film. And if you watch this show, when you see it, you will know exactly the survival that I'm talking about.
Is this like,
I was so irritated that this character survived this thing that I felt like, well, I actually just wish she died because that's really annoyed me now that she's showed up.
So hang on, is this the one? Oh, look,
They're on a holiday on an island in Europe.
Okay. So it's not modelled on the. Wasn't there one modelled on?
It's a foreign. It's not Spanish. It's Norwegian or Danish or something. Yeah. Norwegian, I think. Yeah, it's subtitled.
Okay.
Yeah. It was kind of I watched it all. I enjoyed the first couple of episodes, and then I was just like, and I've got a certain fascination for tsunamis, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to quickly rip through the leftovers, and then I'm going to.
When you were a kid, were you fully boned up on the whole, like, if the tide goes out really quickly and there's fish flopping on the sand, run?
Not as a kid, but after the 2004 tsunami. Was that 2003? 2004? I think it was 2004, the Asian tsunami. Leftovers, Paddington, Peru.
4, yeah.
Dragged the kids to that. Well, not dragged, but they were happy to go. But day one of opening, in fact, it was a preview, went to go because, as you know, I love Hugh Grant so hard. Hadn't read the fine print. Hugh Grant isn't in it until a 30-second cameo in the closing credits. So as the film went on, I just got increasingly annoyed that, God, Hugh Grant's not going to be in this, is he? He's not going to be in it. And then I reminded myself, well, actually in Paddington 2, he's imprisoned at the end, so why did you think he was going to show up here? It's your own silly fault. So, yeah. But anyway, enjoyable.
I actually would just pay to watch your interior monologue during some of these movies.
The Young Man by Annie Ernaux, which she won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 2022. French writer. Another basically short story, really just a novella.
I just want to know why it's in this division of your list.
A 50-something female writer has an affair with a man 30 years her junior. Writes a kind of short novel about it. It's very French.
Yeah.
Good bit of writing.
Yeah.
Kind of slightly baffling, like good bits of French writing often was good.
Hang on, why is it in that
Leftovers.
bit of your list? Oh, it's in we're into leftovers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought there was going to be a problem that you had with this bit of French whimsy. Like, I thought you were going to jump into, what, 50? You had an affair with a 20-year-old?
You were waiting for Paddington in Peru for me to go. I mean, how did a bear get through immigration? I mean, come on. Like, that's just ridiculous. Live animals can't fly from Heathrow, last I checked, in a passenger seat. I had a real problem with the plausibility of that film. No.
I'm just very tired now.
I think I'll leave the others. The other.
Please, would you? I can't take no more, Captain.
I did mention off the top The Myth of Sanity by Martha Stout. It's probably a much longer
Martha Stout. Are we finishing on
Stout? We're finishing on The Myth of Sanity, which looks like you've lost yours at this point. The Myth of Sanity is a book basically about how trauma, it's basically about trauma, in particular childhood trauma, how the brain copes with that, how as a protective mechanism it can often cause people to forget great details of things or to change the narrative to make it palatable.
Yep.
But that sometimes even when your brain's done that, your psychological health is badly compromised, and sometimes people need to go back into the childhood trauma to unpack it or to revisit it, to actually come to terms with it, to incorporate it into their adult life. Anyway, she has some very interesting grown-ups who, severe trauma from childhood who have got multiple personalities. And she's like a, elite Harvard professor type or somewhere, I forget where she's from, but she goes through these cases. But one of the things that I found very, very interesting was, so she says, you might be reading this and thinking, well, it doesn't apply to me because I had a happy childhood. But she makes the point that because children are obviously there are degrees of trauma, and some people have had just objectively traumatic incidents happen. But she said for children, everything that happens to you is happening to you for a first time. So to a degree, a lot of things are traumatic, but you don't view them now because as an adult you look back and you go, well, I didn't have, my brother wasn't killed, so I didn't have a traumatic childhood. This doesn't qualify. But she says, for example, she used the example of a child who was meant to get picked up at school or from the bus stop, and then mum didn't show up to pick the kid up from the bus stop, and the child went and hid in the bushes and was crying because he thought, mum's forgotten me, she's not coming, I'm going to be stuck here all night. And then the mum showed up an hour late, 2 hours late, whatever, got the kid, and then he went into his room and sobbed and da-da-da. Now, as an adult, of course, that's just like that was just sad, poor little dude. But the grown-up man views that as, well, that was a memorable thing from my childhood, but it wasn't like a lasting trauma. Mum got stuck at work, was pre-mobile phones, blah, 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 blah. But in the moment, the child was actually traumatised.
Yeah.
The child did actually think that he had been abandoned, by his mother. And so however you have reframed that narrative, you still, somewhere in you, is the person that had that experience, which did at the time feel like a trauma. So she talks about how things that, people as a grown-up might have issues with anxiety or depression or relationship issues or all the 8 squillion issues humans have, and often it can be something that you think is unremarkable, but because you're looking at it through your adult eyes, not through your child eyes. Anyway, it's very interesting reading about how, as a psychiatrist, she works with people unpacking, okay, what's going on in my everyday life, and where does that come from?
And so the myth of sanity of the title, is it just the premise that there is no actual norm of,
Pretty
it's
much,
all relative to...
Or that you can think that, you've got a handle on things and that you're very functional, but actually everyone's got their own layers of dysfunction and different things. And also just that it's such a fine edge between, particularly for people who've carried extreme trauma, and I've had a friend in this situation who had some terrible things happen to him when he was a child, accidents and things, and at a later age it kind of suddenly he just couldn't keep a lid on it anymore. Like stuff that had been boxed up and that he'd been able to handle very well all of his life, suddenly it just wasn't able to be handled, and it just happened out of the blue.
Yeah, right.
And it involved having to go back and process things that had just kind of been boxed away for a long time. So I guess the myth of sanity refers to that, you can think you're chugging along okay.
Yeah,
and
coping,
yeah,
not coping.
And then not coping,
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's a bit of a downer to end
It is,
things
isn't
on.
it? Like,
but
thank you, Stout and Strout.
But yeah, that was.
Can you read a book with someone by someone with the surname Trout next? That would, for me, it would complete the trilogy.
Or Sprout.
Strout, no. It's got to be Trout, I'm afraid.
Trout it is.
I'll find somebody.
There is a Schubert piece of music called The Trout.
Plenty of fish in the sea, Sals. See you, old Trout.
See ya.
Thank you for enjoying both the oral and the visual experience of me talking to this lady here. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for so much more content. It'll probably quell your enthusiasm, but give us a go or listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Did you ever think that we'd be telling people to subscribe to our content?
No, I did not.
We're cool at last.
Don't. You're making me look bad in front of my children. Again.